We all know 2020 has not been the best year for competitive Pokemon play, but it has been an amazing year for collectors and fans of the TCG. With organised play cancelled through to the end of the year, there is definitely something missing in the Pokemon TCG world. Enter sealed only Pokemon. Like many before me, such as Nim Nim, Revs, Fat Moose, and Let's Play Pokemon, I'm going to dive into a unique and fun trading card challenge. On a budget of £30 an episode, I'll be trying to build a competitive Pokemon deck ready for the return of organised play. The catch? I can only use sealed official products to build my deck. That means no trading, no buying singles, and no easy way out. So with that in mind, let's crack some packs. With the new year comes a new challenge, as episode 4 marks our first foray into a semi-competitive format, and we'll be entering our first in-client tournament this week. We also have dates set in February for the first Team Challenge qualifiers, so that milestone is rapidly approaching. With that in mind, we really need to up our game in the coming weeks. Last episode we teased what we'll be opening this week, but for those of you who missed it or just forgot, we have a replacement for Frostmoth in the form of Team Up Blastoise. This has been extremely difficult to get hold of, but after searching eBay, we managed to grab this for £16 with a few quid to ship it, so it brings up to £19 for this bad boy, which is definitely over MSRP, but that's the Pokemon tax right now. We also have with our remaining budget this week 3 double celebration packs as we go back searching for Inteleon VMAX. But first things first, let's crack open this theme deck and look at what we're actually going to be using from it. Unfortunately, there is just a lot of this deck that we aren't going to be using, either because it's not good, it's just energy, or the sheer fact that a lot of this deck, unfortunately, has rotated. So, I will first go through honourable mentions that I don't think will make it into the deck, but it's something I'll keep in. I've got like a little pile of our cards that are potential techs or things that I want to keep an eye on as we go forward. So the first one of those is Pidgeotto with his Airmail ability. It lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, one of them in your hand and the other on the bottom. I love this card, I think it's really good, but I think as it stands we don't have the space. Psyduck is a great little callback to the old Wizards of the Coast days, with the flip a coin and your opponent can't play any trainer cards. That's really good. I like Psyduck. I will consider him for this week, we'll see how it goes. And of course, if we throw in the Psyduck, this Golduck isn't a terrible attacker. If we can get Golduck off quick enough, you could even Amnesia, say, an ADP so it can't use its GX attack. Yeah, it's an option. It's going in the pile of potentials with our Zigzagoons and all the other stuff like that. This is what we bought the deck for. These cards right here. This is what I spent £19 on. Oh, look at that foil. Bent already. Fantastic. This is what I spent £19 on. Obviously not Squirtle. So awesome as this art is, and adorable as Squirtle is, this isn't it. We do have our 3 Squirtles, which will be going in. We have 2 Wartortles, again, just there to get us to the card we really want. Might not even play these, might just do rare candies in their place. We'll see how the deck comes out. But lastly, we have powerful Squall Blastoise. You know, let's give him the attention he deserves. Let's clear the board. Clear out space. This is the only alternative I could think of to Frostmoth. Frostmoth's biggest benefit is that it will attach from your hand, and there are so many more ways to get cards into your hand, or especially water with Capacious Bucket, returning things from the graveyard to your hand. There's a lot of ways to do that. Blastoise has a bit of difficulty in that it only attaches water from the top 6 cards of your deck when it searches. So it's not as good as Frostmoth, but Frostmoth's hard to get. This is a guaranteed purchase, and therefore it's better for us in sealed only, because we can actually get it. I'm thinking about getting Oranguru potentially in the future to help stack our top of our deck to ensure we get at least 1 water energy each time, but we'll see how you can go. No matter what happens this episode, we have got a fantastic addition to our deck. That being said, we do still have some packs to open, so let's get on in. I think at this point we mainly just want Crobat V from our packs of Darkness Ablaze. The other stuff from this set, while it might help, I think we're getting to the point now that we need to start prioritizing, I guess is the right way of saying it. I know we had like the Bird Keepers and Turbo Patch that has been in our deck so far, but I think I need to start considering taking out stuff like that in favour of really bringing our strategy into line with what we want to do eventually. Reverse Paris and ooh, hello. Definitely not going in our deck, but if we do end up pulling the Crobat V, could be an option for us. I'm going to open all of Darkness Ablaze first before going into Rebel Cache. Rebel Clash. Man, I can't speak this week. Can't open packs either. Cards on the table, literally. I have actually been playing a little bit with our week 3 deck, just adding in Blastoise as it was, because I knew I was going to open this week and I was really curious what it was going to play like. And it has gone pretty well so far. It was a very rough, I basically just chopped out a couple of cards and put it in. So it was a very rough idea of what we're doing this week, but I have had a little bit of a little bit of a head start this week in knowing how the deck will sort of work. I'm quite impatient, okay? It's a new year. I wanted to play some games, and I love Blastoise. So, I'm not going in blind this week. Maybe that's cheating. It's my series, I make the rules. So, yeah. Another thing I will say is I've been putting in codes like, in the corner here throughout the last couple of episodes. I don't know if people who are watching this don't really play PTCGO or they aren't noticing, but they're not all been taken. So go back, check the last episodes, try the ones in this episode. Keep trying. I don't need all the codes I've been opening. Go nuts. Just trying to give back to everyone that, worst card ever, that's been watching this series so far. Just a little thank you. And our last Darkness Ablaze card is a Hydreigon. I have also been sorting out the cards in our packs and we've got a pretty good hefty line of the Hydreigon line now. So if we ever want to swap into Darks, we're a good place to start. Let's face it, Inteleon V is the card we're looking for. And he's in here. It's somewhere. It's got to be. But I could do with... I think Capacious Bucket will be good once we get Frostmoth. It doesn't really work that well with Blastoise, unfortunately. That's the downside of with Blastoise, is there's just not a lot of ways to get cards back in your deck easily at the moment. There's Marnie. Marnie's great, so if you have a hand full of water, awesome, but there's no way of stacking it to the top. Oranguru could be a good search for us going forward. So Psychic, Masquerain, Barnaby, and Flapple. I hope you're all having a good new year though. It's been a quiet one here, considering the lovely tier 4 restrictions that are going around. But new year, got to be positive to start the year. Going to be a badass year for the sealed only journey, I'm sure. Like I said in the intro. Ooh, blinged out Capacious Bucket. Very nice. And a Colossal. Alright, I'll take some hollows. Yeah, as I was saying in the intro, we do have the dates now for our team challenge. I imagine I would have put them on screen when I mentioned it the first time. But yeah, I want to try and make sure that I get this series out on my regular deadline, just to ensure that the deck's in a good place when I'm actually entering that tournament. But yeah, getting nervous. I don't know if that won't be the end of the series, even if we don't make it, which probably won't make it. But I want to always have a goal in mind, keep us pushing for something. And I want to get to play with some of my local people a bit more, even though COVID's stopping us from doing so. And this team challenge seems like a really nice way of doing that. But this is going to be the pack. Behind this Pelipper is Inteleon V Max. But, you know, that's how YouTubers do it. If you just really believe it'll be there. Now, I asked last week in the comments if you wanted me to do this, do the deck tech in paper, and one person replied, my girlfriend. Shout out to her. So, you know what, we're going to do in paper. So, hold tight, and we'll begin. Thought we'd make this segment a little bit different, so we've removed the playmat. We've got our lovely table here for this week's deck tech in paper. We'll start off with our Pokemon lines, and the two returning champions this week are Dubwool V and Inteleon V. These two have undoubtedly proven themselves week after week as our biggest hitters. And while things like Stage 2 Inteleon has definitely done work, these are the two that have actually won us games, so they're going nowhere. Other cards that are going nowhere fast are our two Dedenne-GX, because let's face it, even if this card was garbage, how on earth could you tell this face that you were taking him out of the deck? Are you a monster? Are you? Index is not a controversial pick, but one that I'm aware isn't optimal. However, nothing feels worse than damaging a Pokemon either already on the bench or one that gets swapped onto the bench only to be healed. Therefore, Mimikyu will be staying in our deck this week. The first rule changes you'll see this week are that we only have 2 Sobble and 2 Inteleon. We've stripped down our Sobble line to just the 2, and we've fully removed Drizzile from our deck entirely. We're trying to make room for the Blastoise line, and there's just not that much room for 2 full Stage 2 lines. So we've dropped it down to 2 Sobble and 2 Inteleon, and we'll see how that goes. Similarly, our new additions this week include 2 Squirtle and 2 Powerful School Blastoise. This is the big one for us this week, and you'll notice that I've gone for a 2-2 line here as well. I did go back and forth on whether or not to include any Wartortle. We're going to try this out, see how it goes, and we can always make changes, next week. Moving on to our trainers now, and specifically our supporters first of all, we still have our 3 Professors Research. I considered going back up to 4, but as you'll see with our 2-2 line of Squirtle and Inteleon, Squirtle and Inteleon? Strange choice of names there, but you get the point. With our 2-2 lines, including rare candies, I was a bit afraid of how much we can afford to discard, so I'm sticking at 3, and again, we'll just see how it plays. We have our 2 Marnies, which I would love to boost up to 3, 4 even. We just don't have them yet. We might have to search those out in coming episodes. And our 2 Boss's Orders, which I'm feeling relatively comfortable with at the moment. I'm not sure I'd even go up to 3 if we had it. It's feeling okay for now. Moving on to our items now, I was looking through our pulls from previous episodes, sorting out our sealed only collection, and I was really happy to find that we actually have pulled an entire playset of rare candy, including the 2 that we got in the trainer's toolkit. So that was the main thinking behind why we're going for a 2-2 line of Blastoise and Inteleon this week, because we actually have the full playset of rare candies, which I was really excited about. And while we don't have any specific ways to search out rare candy, which I think is a big flaw in our deck at the moment and could be a problem, I thought that I wanted to at the very least make it so if we have rare candy in our hand, we are guaranteed to get Squirtle and Blastoise either that turn or the next turn. So bearing that in mind, I have got our 3 Quick Balls that we've had before. We've gone up to 2 Great Balls. We still have our 2 Evolution Incense and our 2 Pokémon Communication. Just shuffle that all up. I really wanted to make sure that no matter what our situation was, if we have a rare candy in hand, we have a way of making sure there's a Squirtle on the bench, about to be on the bench, or we're looking for that Blastoise to evolve with rare candy. I don't know if this is overkill, I don't know if we need to focus on getting ways to search out rare candy, but we can't do that this episode, so this is the plan we are going for, and fingers crossed it's not a train wreck. I wanted to make sure that should we discard, should we lose any of those Pokemon, that we have a way of getting them back. So the Ordinary Rods are staying in our deck. I did consider going up, but I thought that might be overkill. Anything that keeps our water topped up in our main deck numbers helps Blastoise achieve his powerful score each time that we use it. But should we miss that, we do still have the Turbo Patch to accelerate from the discard pile, and Energy Switches in case we have manually attached the wrong Pokemon, or if we just know that we're about to be KO'd and we can just pivot out of that. More just survivability utility stuff. We have our Air Balloons, the 2 switch, which I have moved over to the art from the Blastoise Steam Deck that we just opened. Rounding out our items is our Pokemon Catchers and our Reset Stamps for some added disruption. I'd love to add some Crushing Hammers in the future, but for now we'll deal with what we've got. And speaking of what we got, we also have 14 Water Energy. It might be excessive, but I am a little bit nervous about making sure Blastoise hits every time we use Powerful Squall. Let me know if you like the deck tech like this. I probably won't do it every week because it's a little bit more work and we rarely need to go into detail over what each little thing does. But every now and then it might be nice just to actually handle our physical cards because God knows I miss playing in paper. Having said that, I think it's now time for us to head over into PTCGO and play this week's games. Our first tournament game, and we face up against probably the best case scenario when it comes to meta decks in the form of Centiskorch VMAX. Hitting for weakness is going to be huge for us this game. The biggest threat we have going into this match, however, is just how quickly our opponent's deck can set itself up. So it's going to be a real test for our Blastoise line to get us where we need to go fast. We start off in a relatively great scenario with Inteleon V in our active position and a way to search out Squirtle. A fortunate Dedenne draw sees us hit the Rare Candy, and all we need to do is hit the Blastoise next turn to get up and running. However, this just isn't the calibre of decks we've been facing up against recently, and one extra turn is all Centiskorch VMAX needs to show off its raw power. Evolving up to the VMAX form with a Welder and Attach Return, it gives him just enough firepower to one-shot KO our Inteleon V, putting us on the back foot after starting one of the best possible ways for our deck. However, that doesn't mean we're down and out. Hitting for weakness is a big benefit for us, so we try to search out our Blastoise and swing the game back in our favour. But we whiff the Great Ball search, and to be honest, that seals the deal. We throw Inteleon V back in our deck for good measure, but from there we just run out of gas and Centiskorch walks all over us, which is painful because he has a lot of legs. So our first tournament run ends immediately. Not wanting to leave it on such a sour note, immediately following that defeat, we booted up another tournament, and instantly felt ourselves experiencing a sense of deja vu, as our opponent and I start a very similar board. Our opponent gets his Centiskorch down, while things are not looking quite as ideal for us as they did last time. An Ultra Ball off the top, however, does give us Dedenne-GX into Squirtle on bench and Blastoise in hand, and things are starting to look very familiar for us. Albeit slightly worse this time round, as it was much easier for us to search out Blastoise last game than it is Rare Candy in this game. The deck is quite well equipped for searching out Pokemon, but items and specific trainers is quite difficult for our deck as it stands. Things end up playing out almost identically, and for the first time in the series I can't bring myself to just sit through the last KO and end up conceding. So that was rough. I wasn't expecting to blow our first tournament out of the park, but wow, that was a wake-up call. Last week I mentioned that while we were taking wins, none of them were against the meta decks, and I worried what would happen when we finally met them. And I guess my fears were not unfounded. Of all the top decks in the meta, I would have hoped we'd fare better against one we actually hit for weakness, but coming up twice against Centiskorch VMAX kinda confirms we just aren't there yet. I definitely made a few mistakes when deck building that we can rectify next week, but others will be harder to pull off, such as how I'd prefer to have more Blastoise in the deck, but finding a second affordable theme deck may prove to be a bigger challenge than beating Centiskorch. Looking forward to next week. I want to leave it up to you guys again with what we open, as I have 3 ideas on which way to go first, but why make decisions when you can turn it into engagement, right? Our first option is to pick up a Zacian V League Battle deck. Our main targets in that deck are the Jirachi Scoop Up Net package to improve our consistency, the Oranguru to improve our chances at hitting water and saving items like Rare Candy from being researched away, plus the ability to max out our Marnies. It's a very solid product, if not the most exciting of additions. Secondly, I've been relying heavily on the Inteleon V to attack, and while I originally thought that opening a second tin wouldn't do us much good, I was starting to think a second V instead of, or as well as the stage 2 line of Inteleon is just the right play. So we could open a second Inteleon V10 and a few packs almost identical to episode 2. And lastly, I have the content choice, shall I say, the go big or go home play, where I open 8 celebration double packs in search of Crobat and Inteleon VMAX. Big risk, but the chance for big rewards. The deadline for the team challenge is fast approaching, and I'd lie if I said I was feeling confident, but they've just revealed an Inteleon playmat as a reward for winning, so I've never been more incentivized to do well. Next episode may likely be our last chance to open product before we enter our first qualifier, so it's going to be a big one. Please do not make me decide, as that is too much pressure, and instead leave your comments below on what you think will make the most impact. And if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up and the channel a subscribe, as every little helps. But until next time, keep cracking packs.